I listen to you a lot, and we speak a lot off camera. We speak about.
Unfortunately, he has to listen to me quite a lot.
I have a Pompey podcast through the entirety of my life at the moment, but I do enjoy it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Fournilwrittenalloverit, and a very warm welcome along for a big season review with a very relieved Jack Ward is here, and I think we're both actually quite glad that this dreadful season is over, for different reasons of course, but we're both glad nonetheless, I think, aren't we?
Yes, we are. It hasn't been one to remember for either of us, but we can say we're both competing in League One next season, which at the start of the season we'd be hating to say those words because we thought we might have a higher place finish. It's not going to be like that, but we can both secure our League One places next year.
We can, which I think you're probably a little bit more pleased about than we are, and that's probably a good segue into the crux of this video, because we are going to be doing a season review with Mr. League One himself. Before we get into it, don't forget to leave a like on the channel and subscribe. We've got so much content from both myself here on the channel and on Jack's channel, and some partnerships and collaborations that we absolutely can't get enough of doing together at the moment, so stick around, and if you want to see more of that, then press that little notification bell as well, which will let you know what's coming and when it arrives, and you will be one of the first to see it. Also, if there's anything that you agree with, disagree with, or if you enjoy the content, feel free to leave it as a comment down below as well, and we'll be having a look, reviewing and replying to an awful lot of those. It'd be great to get a discussion going, so make sure you have your say. I thought it would be good for us to sit down and reflect on what's been an enjoyable season off the pitch for us in terms of following Pompey up and down the country. I've made a lot of happy memories and ones that I'll cherish for a long time, and luckily enough been able to document them here on the channel, which has been amazing. But on the pitch, a rather forgettable one for Pompey. Let's dive into it. I've sort of broken it down, and this is going to be great to hear from your neutral point of view, because although this is a Pompey video on a Pompey channel, I think it's important to have a little bit of realism about these things, and there'll be people in the comments who are very damning of this group of players and the season we've had. There'll also be people who are a little bit more on the positive side of things and maybe view this Pompey season from the glass half full perspective. There's kind of three different things that I wanted to put to you. The first one being, some would say we threw the season when we won one game in 14 under Danny Cowley in that horrible run where we were incredibly inconsistent. Others would say we then didn't take advantage of what was a really revitalised group under John Mousinho when he came in, given a relatively kind run that we had on paper in front of us, maybe from that sort of MK Dons game onwards where we just sort of threw the towel in and didn't look like we were going to make anything of the season. Ultimately, we've come within, single figures points short of the playoffs this season. And then some would say, look, if you're staring down the barrel of League 2 football next season, 15th in January, to even be within a stone's throw of the playoffs under Mousinho is an awesome turnaround and is really something to be remarked about. Where do you stand, Jack? If you're a Pompey fan, which I know you have your connections to Pompey through me and through the current manager, but where would you be on that spectrum of judging the season based on those three things?
I think it's been such a roller coaster of a season, hasn't it? I think in terms of trying to judge it and like you say, try and create a pathway into how you feel at the end of it, it's really difficult because at one point, Danny Cowley you were top of the league at the start of the season. You're playing some really good football, and you sort of had a recruitment strategy in the last summer that was really built around Danny Cowley. And then it goes, like you said, that horrible run, and then you looked like you could really push on at one point, and then some disappointing draws and drop point to John Mousinho after his amazing honeymoon period. And you put all that together and you go, that could be 5 seasons. It's actually just one season. You've gone through such a weird transition. But at the same time, I would go away feeling encouraged, especially with the latter end of the campaign. I think John Mousinho is a really interesting young manager that nobody knows too much about, but I think is excited to see what he can do and what he can do with a group of players. I think that the transfer window in the summer is going to be crucial in seeing exactly what he's all about, because he's then going to have his entire squad that's his in some ways, because the last one, like I said, was really built around Danny Cowley and that strong start and then disappointing collapse around that middle part of the campaign. So in answer to your question, it's really difficult because you've almost got, like I said, lots of different elements of loads of seasons crammed into one, because it has been all over the shop. I think you should be, and again, this is a neutral perspective, you should feel as Pompey fans exactly how you want to feel about it. It's your football club and you know far more about it and care far more about it in the most brutal way possible. But I think at the end of the season, I think there is an element of encouragement. I think some red flags and some elements that need to be sorted out quickly. I think some drop points that have been disappointing. But generally, I think there are elements that you can go, that's a positive. Can we build on that? It's about building on positives and going again next season with improved areas. And I think that's something that, and learn lessons as well. Learn some lessons, because there were some big mistakes made by, yes, maybe the old regime, but also that transfer window. And Yeah, I think learning lessons, being encouraged, and building and improving on elements that you have seen, especially since John Mousinho came through the door.
What do you mean by red flags? What would you say are kind of maybe a handful of things that you point towards to say that's something that needs to be eradicated rather quickly?
I think the last couple of games haven't been amazing. I think you and I listen to you a lot, and we speak a lot off camera. We speak about.
Unfortunately, he has to listen to me quite a lot.
I have a Pompey podcast through the entirety of my life at the moment, but I do enjoy it. I do. But no, and we've said, and I watched you against Oxford a couple of weeks ago, and we got a really good point that, you know, without sounding too Oxford bias here, that we could have won. Really, we know we had the chance to. We just couldn't finish our dinner. But ultimately, what I saw from Pompey on that night was
everything I told you about, maybe.
Maybe a lack of consistency, I think. There was a lack of consistency. There were really good moments, but then there also was generally quite a few bad ones. You went through quite a weird, patchy performance from yourself. And then you've been saying across the season, that, especially since John Mousinho came in, but really across the season, but really highlighting these red flags now, I think you do need to be better in front of goal, that you drop in points at home, Port Vale, Morecambe, those sort of ones. If you really push on for the top six, which maybe wasn't a realistic target when Mousinho came through the door, but those are definitely games in which could have made the league table really different, and you could be heading into a playoff campaign if you've been better in front of goal and being a little bit more adventurous, creative. I think that's going to be the thing you've got to improve on. Can you be better and less predictable and less same old in the attacking phase? Because if you can do that, you've got some, you have got great attackers. You've got a very, very good striker. You have got some really good players around Colby Bishop and, that entire squad. Yes, depth needs to improve in the summer, but that's what that window's all about. But I think you've got to be, especially in the final third, looking to try and be a little bit more different in the way you attack. Personally, for me, I don't know about you.
Oh, mate, 100% on board with everything. And we've had the conversation off camera, and I'm so glad that we're documenting it here on the channel, because I think it'd be, mate, for a really interesting watch for people. And we'll get back to Colby Bishop in just a moment as well, because he's going to form part of our conversation in the sort of the second to final part of the video. What I wanted to did. That's almost sniffing down the neck kind of standard, that one, isn't it?
It was.
Injuries definitely deserve a mention, and my dad will kill me if I don't mention this, because it is one of his bugbears this season. Speaking of dads, by the way, very happy birthday to Jack's dad if he's watching for last weekend. Hope he's it was a couple of weeks ago, probably by the time this comes out, but massive happy birthday to you, Danny. Thanks, mate. I don't know if he watches these days. I know he used to.
No, he does. He does.
He's
a very avid viewer. He is.
You could well argue that part of Danny Cowley's demise was due to and spearheaded by unavailability. That's an easy one to try and say when you're talking quickly. And unavailability issues. Tommy Lowry's a brilliant example of this, and he's a massive fan's favourite, and there's the chant about him, but hasn't been able to demonstrate his quality on a consistent basis. And how much do you feel like that really brought about the end for Danny Cowley this season, in terms of not having the players he wanted, and by and large not having quite a core group of the transfer window that he built coming into this, particularly his third one? That's never going to be easy for a manager to try and work out a route out of trouble when form is against you and injuries against you as well.
Yeah, injuries don't help, and I think a lot of managers will say when it doesn't go very well and you have got injuries, that's a big reason why it doesn't go the way that they wanted to, and I think Danny Cowley has a right to say that. I'd also say Danny Cowley failed to adapt when injuries came along. Maybe people will say, did he have the tools to adapt? Probably not. Does he have incredible depth in that squad? Probably not. That's why you've got to go into a summer transfer window now and really improve and bolster that squad in different areas. But I remember we spoke about the 4-4-2 that he was playing, quite an old school, but quite a modernised 4-4-2 that he was really trying to element with the squad and really, I think, get the most out of this squad in that type of way. But when those injuries came along, he kept with that 4-4-2. He kept playing that formation. I remember saying to you, is he going to change? Is he going to adapt? Because you got the players. In particular, when Marlon Pack had injuries and suspension problems, he was still playing a two in midfield. And I think Marlon Pack is a player that can play in a two in midfield. But I think if you get rid of him, that is a really, really easy place to be overrun in a midfield. So look, he was trying to stick to his guns. He was trying to stick to what he wanted and what was proving really successful earlier on in the season. But at the same time, I think you have got to be adaptable. And was he adaptable? But then the question has to be fired straight back to you, Tom. Did he have the tools? Did he have that summer transfer window to play a different way? Or was it like, this is our group of players, this is what we've got, this is the way we want to play, it was going really well, but then when things start falling off here and there, have I got the ability to chop and change and make things better? Clearly, he's out of a job, you're not in a top six race, you've ended the season with disappointment again. You have to say, it didn't work.
No, it didn't work, and unfortunately, it was kind of. I remember thinking during as the transfers were rolling in, you're thinking you got that midfield of Ryan Tunnicliffe, Louis Thompson, Marlon Pack, and Joe Morrell, and you're thinking, wow, and Tommy Lowry to add to that list, and even Jay Mingy could go on to the end of that, and you're thinking there's maybe 5, 6, 7 really top professionals in there. All of a sudden, within a couple of, well, not within a couple of weeks, but during at least probably a period of about a month in this season, it was coincided with the time where we went 1 win in 14, where actually that midfield didn't quite look as assured as it maybe would or maybe should have done. And obviously it's not pinning it on 2 particular players, but you mentioned unavailability for Marlon Pack, and we've also, you could maybe bring into the conversation Joe Morrell's time away with Wales in Qatar for quite a lengthy period of time, and obviously you maybe can't pinpoint that on an international weekend where your game doesn't get postponed and you're missing 2 out of the 3 players that you need. But we lost him for a good month, Morrell, and that was a really key loss for me. And also you could actually bring that argument into when he had a 4-game ban. He mentioned after the game against MK Dons, and I absolutely loved Joe Morrell to bits, but I think he got this one wrong where he said, the boys will be absolutely fine without me against Port Vale and in the coming weeks, and we actually found out that wasn't quite the case, and maybe it could have been the opposite really if you think about it, because we had a really difficult run from that point. I'm not trying to pin it all on Joe Morrell and Marlon Pack.
I think he was trying to play Mr. Humble there, wasn't he? I think he was trying to maybe, I think to maybe reassure the fans that yes, he's got an amazing opportunity to go to a World Cup that not many League One players get to go to do that.
Everyone's going to go,
exactly.
Oh my God, we're going to struggle. So
yeah. No, I think he took that opportunity. You wouldn't you, at a League One level? Anyone would go to a World Cup, but it did leave you in a position where you were weak. And I think actually you make really good points about injuries and about that availability and not looking as strong with those individuals. But I think system base is important as well. I think if you try to play a midfield 3, and look, you can get away with playing a midfield 3 to a certain extent, maybe with not as strong players when it comes to ability. But I think if you play a 2 in that 4-4-2 that was working so well, that picked up so many good results earlier on in the campaign, as soon as you try and change that and adapt that and try and put players into that position and into that area of the football pitch, we know it's a cliche in football, games are won and lost in the midfield. And you'll lose that midfield battle so often because I think system-wise, teams just smelt blood and could overrun you in that area. So, yeah, injuries played a massive part in that. Fullback-wise as well, I think you had Ogilvie injured for a long period of time as well. You've had lots of other positions that have caused issues problem-wise. But then you look at the summer transfer window, that's the position and that's the place where you go and bolster that squad going into next season. The
one single player that we've had for pretty much the entirety of the season, I think he started like 97% of the games, is Colby Bishop. You mentioned Conor Ogilvie. You've also, like Joe Rafferty and Swanson, both are first and second choice, interchanging between the two of them, whether they're first or second right backs, have both been injured for parts this season, and it's just been a bit of a conundrum. One thing I must add as well is, and and many people on watching this will know that I absolutely adore Joe Morrell. He was literally the most unplayable I've seen him when he came back from the World Cup as well. So, and I should have said when you mentioned it, I'm glad you did, that's a massive opportunity for him, and probably one of the greatest months of his life and his career in football, and probably will ever be, considering Wales' situation in terms of qualifying for future tournaments. And that's no disrespect to Wales, but it is big for him. And he came back and incredibly improved. He was immense anyway, but he'd improved majestically, and he has done absolutely brilliantly for this final part of the season. Let's move on then. There are positives. We mentioned them at the top of the video. We haven't mentioned these two. We've mentioned the positives. Dishon and Towler have been the centre-back pairing that John Mousinho has opted for. Well, you could argue, yes, it's as a result of not having much to play for the rest of the season is why he's made this choice. However, he has played them both for the last couple of weeks as the starting centre-back roles. They're both incredibly bright prospects. What am I doing tonight? Both incredibly bright prospects with the experience of the two boys we've already mentioned in Morrell and Pack in front of them. Paddy Lane is another one who's easily one of our best players at the moment, and obviously Colby Bishop, as long as he stays, Jack. And those are 4-5 quite crucial words there. We know the interest is there from our friends at Pullman Road. We know there's probably going to be other interests as well. Does a 20-plus goal striker stay at Pompey this summer, as a kind of a side note? And there's been kind of word on the street, Pompey Twitter, and I know Andy Moon's done a couple of pieces on this in the last couple of weeks, but Pompey fans expected a price tag of 4, maybe 5 million quid if we're to even consider something for Colby. Anything above $1 million, I think, is pretty ludicrous to pay at this level for a striker from a League One club. Where do you stand on the Colby Bishop issue at the moment and the situation surrounding him, and how hopeful can you imagine Pompey fans are at this point that they'll be hoping that he'll be playing for them us next time we play a football game, really, next time we play a competitive League One match?
I think he's got to stay. For your sake. Strikers in League One, strikers joining League One clubs. Trust me, speaking from experience this season, strikers are really, really important. Breaking news for you all, you do need a goal scorer, and if you're going to be successful, you need somebody that can put the ball into the back of the net.
And where would we be without him as well?
That. We did that in the video, your team of the season, a couple of weeks ago. I said to you, imagine where Colby Bishop, well, I mean, he'd be fine. Imagine where Pompey would be if Colby Bishop hadn't scored the goals that he had done. I think you said you'd be fighting really, really, you'd be fighting down there with relegation. And that says so much about the importance and the amount of goals that he scored across the season. I agree with you, and I agree with a lot of Pompey fans. He has to stay because they don't come around often. Strikers like that are physical, that aren't slow, great link-up play. Again, really good goal scoring numbers. You can see that they don't come around often. They really, really don't. So if you've got one, you've got to keep hold of him with all the powers. However, can you keep hold of somebody when there is championship interest? Because Ipswich, it wouldn't surprise me if they go and spend the money, because they've got the money and they've got the power. They've got that championship pool now, and they've got that financial backing that they've shown when they were a League One club. So now they're a championship club. You can't see that really slowing down. We know that a striker is on their list as well, with Hurst being on loan. They're going to need to find a number 9 on a permanent basis. If it isn't Hurst, then Colby Bishop is a proven goal scorer in League One, but also showing signs that he can do it in the Championship. So you can see why there is interest there, and I can see why it won't just be Ipswich. There'll be a lot of football clubs in a higher division wanting to bring him over the summer, and again, that leaves you in a really quite difficult position. It comes down to the money side of it. Are they going to offer him a better deal? Are they going to offer Pompey the amount of money that they value him at? You don't know. Could it be a case that maybe there is a 4 million price tag and you can reinvest that money into a squad? I'm speaking about hypotheticals here and worst case scenario, but I would say if you can keep hold of him, I think you should keep hold of him, because trying to, I think, bring in other players like that. I know Tommy Lee's on your list, isn't he? Accrington as well. You're trying to nick the entire Accrington goal scoring ability for the last 5 years. And there are other names as well. But you've got to, I think, if you've got someone that can score goals in a blue shirt, I think you've got to try and do everything you can in your powers to make sure he stays in a blue shirt. That's just me. I think, and I would say across the league, although I wouldn't mind Colby Bishop leaving League One alone, I think he's got to be on the list keep. On the keep list.
On the list to keep, or
the list keep, or on the just stay at Fratton list. That's what he's got to be on.
The fact that he's wiped the floor with all the player of the season, and he's players player of the season as well, so the boys obviously absolutely love him at the club too. Yeah, I think we just have to kind of stay away from social media and any noise that we hear about a potential move elsewhere. And I'm sure I'll be making loads of content over the summer with my kind of fingers tightly crossed under my desk, talking about the Colby Bishop situation or whatever unravels, because ultimately I'm looking at it and I'm thinking how well he's done, not just as an individual, but his hold-up play for then someone like Joe Pigott to play off him so well. I'd like him to stay on a permanent couple of attacking options to complement that front two, would really get us rocking and rolling for next season. Joe Morrell is another one which I'm a little bit worried is going to be led astray, and I know we've spent quite a lot of the video chatting about him, so I don't want to go into too much detail on this, but he wants nothing more than promotion from League One. I don't think that will shock anyone, and he wants to do it with Pompey as well. That won't be a surprise to people, because you can see that he's demonstrated a real love and a desire to play for the shirt here, and he's got a real love and affiliation for the football club, and I think you can see that. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's been really good. He's probably had one of the best seasons of his career. How important would it be? I think if you're thinking from a recruitment point of view, we mentioned Colby Bishop there, I think we have to do absolutely everything in our power to keep him at the club, and if he's enjoying it as he seems to be doing so, Colby Bishop, and if Joe Morrell is enjoying himself as well, if you think Morrell, Pack, Bishop, Paddy Lane out on the right wing, Deshaun and Riley, and then if we can get Matt Macy back, you then have a bit of a spine there of players where you can think, actually, that's a pretty good bedrock to then build. Obviously, we've heard that there's going to be 9 or 10 new additions to the football club in the summer transfer window. How would you then go about delivering success if you were John Mousinho over the summer, Jack? Would you be in the position to be, right, listen, head of recruitment, sit down with Richard Hughes, the sporting director, we need to keep Colby at all costs, do not even flutter with bids if you can possibly avoid it, unless it's something ludicrous that we can't turn away or turn down, and then if you can give me that assurance that this is going to be my spine of the team, we can then go from there. How do you see it?
I agree. You've got to keep him. I would go with that level of, we've got to keep Colby Bishop at the football club, unless, look, it's weird, I find it really funny when fans talk about valuations and money, because we have absolutely no idea what is going on.
We ain't got a clue, have we?
When it comes down to the financial side of it, they might see him as a £4 million asset, and a bid could come in tomorrow and he could be be off the next day. The worst case scenario, we don't know what the situation is. It could be that whatever it is, he's not for sale. Don't even bother talking to us. That could be the stance. We don't know. But either way, like, I 100% agree what you said and what I said before. If you've got somebody who is there, you haven't got to worry about, is he going to work? Is he going to fit? Is he going to score goals? If you've got somebody that's a guarantee, because there's very little guarantees in football. And next season, he might not score as many goals, but you've got that evidence that at Pompey, Colby Bishop does hit the back of the net. I think you've got to try and keep him. And then you've got to puff out the squad in a weird way. You've got to really bolster the squad. And if you can try and bring someone like Alfie May or Tommy Lee in to play alongside, or...
Can I play the video on screen now of Alfie May that I sent you, by the way?
Because
that's made me really happy. That's made me really happy. I don't know whether it has any significance or not, but it's a little bit of maybe a teaser. Sorry, go on. Sorry to rudely interrupt. You're in mid-flow there, weren't you?
I just think if you can bring in players that can help Colby Bishop and play alongside him, or you can play in that sort of pecking order of squad depth, then amazing.
Complement him, yeah.
Exactly. I think, but if you've got somebody in there that can score goals and has scored goals, he's the man. He's the man to tie down. What's his contract situation? Do we know? Is it a long-term contract? What is that looking like?
He's through till summer 2025. So
you're going to have to pay him out of a big contract.
Yes, it will take a lot. It will take a lot. And I think I'm a little bit concerned by Ipswich because but my only thing with, and a good friend of mine, Jeff Harris, said it on a Pompey podcast, not Fournilwrittenalloverit, but he said, why on earth did Ipswich not come in for him in January if they're so keen on having him for next season and then bed him into the squad and look to build for the Championship? And I think that's a really good point. I think the fact that they didn't move heaven and earth, went for George Hurst in the end. They've also obviously got the likes of Freddie Ladapo, who I know has been really well contributing, and Connor Chaplin's their top goal scorer from kind of in behind the striker. So it's not, they don't have an issue scoring goals, do they? As we've seen recently, Ipswich, and obviously the Championship's a completely different kettle of fish. And I'm also assuming that it's definitely going to be Ipswich that he goes to, and you could see him going to someone like Stoke, for example, couldn't you? It's one of those where I'm mightily concerned that he is going to go elsewhere, and I really hope he doesn't. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Just lastly, Jack, because I appreciate we don't want to go on forever, but I think that's a really comprehensive review so far. Probably just as much, if not more, about Mousinho as Pompey fans do. I'd probably say even a lot more, because he spent so much more time at your club. Will he be feeling the pressure? And I mean, from how I feel and see it from a fan base point of view, it is kind of this season or things start to get a little bit messy, really, in terms of this coming season. I mean, the next season technically, but this season, as we're now at the end of the season that's just gone, a lot of seasons in there, but I'm sure you're kind of following my drift and catching me, and feel free to rewind if you're not. Frustrated fan base, you heard it at the Cast, and personally, it's now heading into our 7th season of League One football. I mentioned 9 or 10 new additions. It's a big summer and a big season to round off from what you said at the start. Nice little cyclical structure we've got here on Fournilwrittenalloverit. Mousinho will be feeling the pressure. Can he deliver?
Of course he can. But when he took the job and when he took that opportunity to be a first-team manager, when he was a set-piece coach at another League One club, he knew there was going to be pressure. And then you add to the mix is Portsmouth Football Club, that you speak about a lot and everybody should speak about a lot, is a very, very well-supported and very historically rich football club competing in the 3rd division of English football. So, he always knew that he was going to be facing a really daunting task, and he was going to be inheriting a squad that, when he joined, was rock bottom of confidence and on a really quite terrible run. And when I sort of hear Pompey fans saying, I want to be really careful because I don't like coming on, I don't even like saying it on the reflections that we do, but I don't like sort of trying to express how I'm annoyed at what Pompey fans or how everyone should feel about a situation that quite honestly isn't really anything to do with me. But what I can say is I think he has improved you. I think he has improved you. I think when you look at...
That gets lost sometimes as well in the frustration of the 7 seasons thing, but you're quite right.
I think, there's clearly, and we spoke about red flags earlier, there are, of course, areas that he needs to improve on, but he's going to improve. I think anybody that thought he was going to come in and try and get you promoted in that situation, and he's a long-term appointment, I think it'd be really, really silly to appoint somebody who is for the long term, is someone to buy into, something to grow with the football club, and then just sort of bin that project off, because then... The argument's going to be, well, we want to start another project. I think when a project is working really, really well, everybody goes, what an appointment. And then when it sort of doesn't go well, we go, did we go with a cheap option? Did we go with the manager that didn't have any experience? Is it an awful appointment altogether? Should we have gone with the other names that were mentioned at the time? I just think time is one. Give him time, give him backing. I know fans can't give him backing other than the support and the vocal side of it, but financially he does need backing over the summer. But patience, and if you can give him all those things and it still doesn't work out, then fine, you just got to admit you got it wrong and you go again. But I think saying it after where were you when he took over in terms of position?
15th,
and you're now
8th.
Again, bang the drum that there are areas he needs to improve on. I think going forward, it hasn't been I think lethal at times. It hasn't been free-flowing. Has there been a slight identity problem? Potentially. But identity and all those sort of quite soft, wet League One football words will come with time and will come with a manager that eventually will grow and get better. He hasn't had the ability to set out a team and create his own brand of football before because he's never been in that position. But I think if you give him the ingredients, you give him that level of patience, I do solely still believe he's got the character and the really, really good footballing knowledge and the early elements to work out a Pompey. But of course, he does need backing and he does need time. All of those things, who knows? He certainly will be feeling the pressure, though, because all managers will, especially he knows you've been stuck in a league for 7 seasons and there is a real expectation to get out of Sky Bet League One.
And sorry to push you, but you said get it right, or I don't know exactly what you said. Did you say for it to work out? So does that mean promotion?
Well, yes, I think that is getting it right. If I said to one Pompey fan right now, or even yesterday and tomorrow, what is a successful season and what is a successful appointment, when we talk about long term, we speak about where you are now and where you want to get to, it would be promotion. In fact, I can ask you right now, I've got a Pompey fan right in front of me.
Quite conveniently.
Exactly. It's almost like we planned it. A successful John Mousinho appointment would be that he gets you out of League One and you don't spend 8, 9, 10 seasons in Sky Bet League One. It's
all about the P word, and that gets bounded around so much. And a lot of Pompey fans are sat there thinking, right, we need a squad that is going to win us this division. No, I nearly said something I shouldn't say on YouTube then. No messing around in the playoffs, because we're rubbish in the playoffs. We have a terrible playoff record. We need someone and a backing and a window. The problem is, Jack, it's one window in the summer, which, Danny Cowley and Nicky Cowley had 3, right? And he needs to get this one spot on. He's only got one shot at it in terms of one window. And then I think a lot of people would say that then will start to cause him a problem. And it's a big ask, but I think it's what he's got to achieve, unfortunately. And that is the nature of the pressure that you've just been talking about.
Yeah, it's ruthless. But I'd also say Danny Cowley's had 3 transfer windows, or did have 3 transfer windows, and you should be given a manager, especially a long-term young project and a young coach that I can't keep coming back to. I think you've also got to understand that it won't be an overnight job. You look at sides that have been very successful this season. Plymouth had an amazing transfer window, or have had some amazing summer transfer windows, especially the last 2.
January was amazing as well, wasn't it?
January, but didn't go up last season. Nearly did. Just missed out on a playoff place right at the end. And then this season, they've flew away with it alongside Ipswich, and had a really, really good summer transfer window again and January. So it is going to take a little bit of time. But it's not just John Mousinho as well running the recruitment strategy. He's got a CEO there. He's got a director of football there. So they've all got to work together. John Mousinho has never, ever entered a transfer window other than the January that's just gone. And even that was quite strange because he hadn't really fully got to know the squad in the same way he does now going into this one. So there's going to be a joint project. It's going to be a joint job. But if they do get it right, I think you've got ingredients and you've got sort of seeds in there that can grow and hopefully can blossom going into next season.
Well, there's the fan base, there's stadium improvements, there's as we mentioned, a spine and a core of a squad. All it needs now is a magical summer, and then we could be rocking and rolling. Jack, thanks so much for your time, mate. I really enjoyed that, and I think a lot of people at home will have done as well. So thank you for sticking with us right to the end. Plenty more where this came from, both here on the channel and on the Jack Ward Football Podcast, which I'd be very surprised if you haven't subscribed to. But if you are yet to do so, please head on over there. Jack's even tagged in the video title, mate. How amazing is that? YouTube is a wonderful place, and if you can't quite click on the tag for whatever reason, there's a link in the description to some of the content that myself and Jack have been putting together. We've done Team of the Season, we've done a load of live streams, we've done we'll obviously do the monthly reflections as well, which are making a return next season, aren't they? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, they are. We've got one more this season. We've got our end of season. We've got an end of season one coming out that we need to sort of work out a time of recording, but that will be coming out, and that will be in the next couple of weeks on the channel. But me and Tom will be sitting down in long form, longer than this probably. And we'll be chatting about the entirety of the season, and Pompey will be brought up back in conversation. Of course it will.
I'm sure they will. And the other thing as well is Pepe Lacey's self-proclaimed favourite moment moment on the 4-0 channel this season happened in a transfer deadline day live stream with a certain topic of Ryan Hardy. So we'll be looking forward to a return of that. I'm assuming we'll probably do an August end of transfer window 7 till 11 job as well, won't we? So that'll be good fun, and hopefully we'll have a lot of Pompey and Oxford transfers to talk about. We'll bring you all the League One stuff as well. That's it from us for now. Thank you for joining us. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and we'll see you next time.